Hello everyone, this is the history tutorial video for class 10. In the previous video, we have studied about the Rowlatt Act, the Satyagraha after that, and the Jallianwala Bagh incident. Now we are going to see what happens next. With the Rowlatt Satyagraha has been a widespread movement. It was a successful movement. It was still limited mostly to the cities and towns. Gandhi now felt the need to launch a more broad-based movement in India, a movement in which more grassroots level people can connect, a mass movement. More people can join, more people can relate to the movement. But he was certain that no such movement can be organized without bringing the Hindus and the Muslims together. Remember, by that time, the Congress and the Muslim League has been formed, so there was a kind of division between the two faiths, between the two people, and Gandhi sought to bring the Hindus and the Muslims together. One way of doing this was to take up the Khilafat issue. Now, what is the Khilafat issue? The First World War had ended with the defeat of the Turkish Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and there were rumors that a very harsh peace treaty was to be imposed upon the Turkish emperor, who was the Khalifa, the spiritual head of all the Muslims around the world. So, to defend the Khalifa's powers, to defend the Khalifa's temporal powers, a Khilafat committee was formed in Bombay in the March of 1919. A young generation of Muslim leaders like Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, they were two brothers, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, they began discussing with Gandhi about the possibility of a united mass action, and Gandhi saw this as an opportunity to bring the Muslims under the umbrella of a unified national movement, into the mainstream national movement. At the Calcutta session of the Congress in September 1920, he convinced other leaders that there is a need to start a non-cooperation movement in support of the Khilafat as well as for Swaraj. Now, Gandhi declared that British rule was established in India with cooperation of Indians and has survived only because of this cooperation was still continuing. If Indians refuse to cooperate, if Indians stop helping the British rule in India would collapse within 1 year and Swaraj would come. Now, how could a non-cooperation become a movement? Gandhiji proposed that the movement should unfold in two stages. It should begin with the surrender of titles that the government awarded and the boycott of civil services, armed police, courts and legislative councils, schools and foreign goods. Then, in case the government used repression, in case the government beat up people, a full civil disobedience campaign would be launched. So, the two stages were surrendering of titles that the government ordered and quitting the civil service, the army, police, courts, legislative councils, government schools, stop using foreign goods, etc. Now, the second stage is if the government uses repression, if the government uses to beat people up, then a full, complete civil disobedience will be in action. Civil disobedience means disobeying and breaking all the laws that the government has imposed on the people. Many with the Congress were concerned about the proposals. There were an anti sentiment within the Congress itself. They were reluctant to boycott the council elections. The elections were scheduled for November 1920, and they feared that the movement might lead to popular violence. The movement may always run the risk of getting out of control. In the months between September and December, there was an intense tussle within the Congress. There was an intense fight of ideologies within the Congress, a fight of opinions within the Congress. One group of people said, no, this is too dangerous, this is too extreme. Another group of people who were with Mahatma Gandhi, they said that no, this is not too extreme, this is just the right thing. So finally, at the Congress session in Nagpur in December 1920, a compromise was worked out and the non-cooperation program would be adopted. That was decided. The non-cooperation Khilafat movement began in January 1921. Various social groups participated in this movement, each with its own specific aspirations, and all of them responded to the call of Swaraj. But the thing is that Swaraj meant different things to different people. Various social groups, people from different classes, different sections of the society, they joined this movement, they participated in this movement, each with their own aspirations, each had their own dreams, what they want for their own, right? And all of them joined the movement because of the call for Swaraj. But this word, the word Swaraj, this held different meanings for different groups of people. For Gandhiji, it meant one thing. For another group of people, it meant something else entirely. So we will see what that means for different groups of people. The movement started with middle class people in the cities. So the middle class people, they participated in the movement which were in the cities. Thousands of students left the government controlled schools and colleges. Headmasters and teachers resigned. Lawyers gave up their legal practices. Council elections were boycotted. In most of the provinces it was actually boycotted, except in Madras, where the Justice Party was in control. The Justice Party was a party of non-Brahmins, without any Brahmins. They felt that entering the council of one way of gaining some power, something that usually only Brahmins had access to. So they thought, they basically had this good thought in their mind as to not boycott the elections because too much was at stake. But apart from that, in all the provinces, in all the cities, elections were boycotted. The effects of non-cooperation on the economic front were more dramatic. How? Foreign goods were boycotted, number one. Number two, liquor shops were picketed. Number three, foreign clothes were burnt. The import of foreign clothes halved between 1921 and 1922. So foreign clothes were not being imported, not coming inside India from England. Its value dropping from rupees 102 crores to rupees 57 crores. So you can see the drastic decrease in the price of the foreign clothes because no one was buying. In many places, merchants and traders refused to trade in foreign goods or finance foreign trade. As the boycott movement spread, and people began discarding imported clothes and wearing only Indian clothes, production of Indian textile mills and handlooms, they went up. So Indian clothes were on the boom and foreign made clothes were on the decline because no one was buying foreign clothes. Everyone has discarded foreign clothes, foreign made clothes. And so the Indian textile industry, the Indian mills, handlooms, they were suddenly seeing a huge upsurge in demand. But this movement in the cities, this protest, this mass movement, whatever, this gradually began to slow down. It gradually began to die out. Why? Because number one, khadi cloth was more expensive than the mass produced mill cloth, and the poor people cannot buy khadi clothes. How could they boycott clothing mill for too long? Right. Similarly, the boycott of British institutions, that posed a problem. For the movement to be successful, alternative Indian institutions have to be set up, like Indian colleges or Indian court of laws, Indian hospitals. Everything should be within the control of Indians, right? But that was very much a slow process. These were slow to come up. So students and teachers began to trickle back to government schools, and lawyers joined back the courts which were controlled by the British government. So alternative system of institutions which the Indians needed to come up with: schools, colleges, courts, hospitals, uh, all the titles that the British government offered, alternative of that, the Indian alternative of those things. But the Indian alternatives did not appear so suddenly, quickly, right? The Indian owned factories, they were slow to start up. So that's why slowly students and teachers and lawyers, they started joining back in their work where they worked for the government. Now from the cities, the non-cooperation movement spread to the countryside. It drew into its fold the struggles of peasants and tribals. So the peasants and tribals, the farmers and the tribals also were slowly incorporated into the non-cooperation movement. In Awadh, peasants were led by Baba Ramchandra, a sannyasi who had earlier been to Fiji. Fiji is an island in Southeast Asia. Who has earlier been to Fiji as an indentured laborer. The movement here was against zamindars, landlords, who demanded from the farmers very high rents and a variety of other taxes. So farmers had to do work without any pay at the landlords' farms, which was very tough to do, with long working hours without any payment. As tenants, as temporary workers, they had no security of their jobs, being regularly driven out so that they can acquire no right over the land. The farmers' movement demanded reduction of revenue, abolition of this work without pay, and social boycott of oppressive landlords, social boycott of bad people who were in the power, landlords who were oppressors. In many places, the barbers and the washermen, they organized strikes to deprive landlords of their services. In June 1920, Jawaharlal Nehru began going around the villages in Awadh, talking to the villagers and trying to understand their problems, trying to understand their grievances, what problems they were having. Now, along with the help of Baba Ramchandra and a few others. By October, these people, Jawaharlal Nehru, Baba Ramchandra and others, they set up a Awadh Kisan Sabha, Awadh Kisan Sabha, a farmers association based in Awadh. Within a month, over 300 branches of this Kisan Sabha has been set up in the villages around the region. So when the non-cooperation movement began in the following year, in 1921, the effort of the Congress was to integrate the Awadh peasant struggle into the wider struggle. So the peasant movement, however, developed in forms that the Congress leadership was unhappy with. The peasant leadership, the farmer leadership, the peasant revolution, whatever, in Awadh, that grew into something which the Congress leaders disapproved of. As the movement spread in 1921, the houses of the zamindars were attacked, bazaars were looted, and grain hoards were taken over. In many places, local leaders told peasants that Gandhi has declared no taxes were to be paid and land was to be redistributed among the poor. So the name of Gandhi was being evoked to sanction all action and aspirations. So it was a good thing that the name of Gandhi was being used to have a proactive revolution, but the Congress leadership was very unhappy with it, because Gandhi wanted a movement which is non-violent in nature, and this peasant movement, it was actually violent in nature, because attacking the house of landlords was not a part of the plan. Grain hoarding was not a part of the plan. Attacking merchants, the rich people, that was not part of the plan. Looting bazaars, looting the markets, that was not part of the plan. So and the movement took a very leftist turn, a very communist turn, where the name of Gandhi was taken to spread the rumor that no taxes were to be paid, that Gandhi has told that no taxes to be paid, and land was to be redistributed among the poor, something which happened in Russia uh, right after the revolution, right after the Russian Revolution. Land was redistributed among the poor equally. So that inspired many of these farmers here, and they took the name of Gandhi to legitimize their action, to make people approve of their action. Because when you are taking the name of Mahatma Gandhi, all of your actions are approved. And also, it was used, his name was used to spread rumors, while Gandhi was not actually saying those things for the people to do, but his name actually legitimizes their actions, so they were free to do it. Now, in class 9, I have taught you about how pastoralists were affected by the British laws and how they were restricted from using the forests in which they had their own rights. Now, in the Gudem Hills of Andhra Pradesh, something like this happened. Pastoralists were suffering under the British laws for long, and militant guerrilla movement was taking place in the Gudem Hills against the British government. People had taken up arms against the British government, which is not a form of struggle the Congress would approve, which is not a form of struggle Gandhi himself would approve. But they also interpreted this message of Gandhi as wanting Swaraj. As I said, Swaraj was interpreted by different sections of people as different thing. So they interpreted Swaraj in their own way. Here, as in other forest regions, the colonial government has closed large forest areas, preventing people from entering, what I had taught you in class 9. This enraged the hill people. When the government began forcing them to contribute their labor without any payment, to work for the government without any payment, the hill people revolted. Under the leadership of Alluri Sitaram Raju, Alluri Sitaram Raju was a rebel leader. The Gudem rebels attacked the police stations, attempted to kill British officials, and carried on guerrilla warfare for achieving Swaraj. So it was a very violent kind of a movement. Sitaram Raju was captured and executed in 1924, and over the time he became a folk hero for the Gudem Hill people. Okay, we are stopping here for today. We will continue with this chapter in the next video. Till then, bye.